statue, Liberty started shaking her fist, and the eagle will fly, and it's gonna be here. I brought to you courtesy of the red, white, and blue.
It's time for Veterans Issues, the show that brings you information about veterans, military, and their families. Now here's your host, Ken Robbins.
Welcome to Veterans Issues. We are brought to you by the red, white, and blue. Today is more red and white, but you'll see why in just a minute, because today's guest is Santa Claus. Stay where you are, get you a pen, be right back. Welcome back into Veterans Issues. Today, well, I hadn't seen you since Thanksgiving, so I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I hadn't seen you really since the Veterans Day, so glad to have everybody tuning in here with us this week and in the holidays. And it's a great time to be an American, to be alive and above the ground in this time of the year. And this time of the year brings us to one thing, and that's Santa Claus, and he's my guest today. It's AKA Jack York. You're welcome to the show, Santa.
Well, it's great to be here again, Ken.
Great to be anywhere in it.
Oh, well, I didn't hear from you last year. I checked all the mail, and we didn't get a letter from you.
You didn't?
No.
I text you.
Well, see, I appreciate that, but I tell all the children out there that we don't do text, and we don't have cell phones, and we have a computer system, but it's all our own there at the North Pole. And a lot of children just look at you and they'll say, "You don't text?"
Yeah, I read it. I said that text that in the green room we were talking about how we text everything all nowadays. But you know what we didn't talk about is somebody put a thing on Facebook the other day about actually trying to write a note, and people don't even write notes. And you know, when I have to address an envelope, I find that my handwriting is not as good as it used to be because I don't write. When's the last time we write notes, you know?
Oh, gosh. But the day of letter writing with a pen or a pencil or something like, that we used to write with years ago, those days are just about what they call bygone, like they did back when our parents was still living. And
don't give you age now.
No, I'll tell you, I love to see birthdays come along. Yeah. Because I'm still on top of the ground.
Yeah. Well, let me get into something here about so the people know. Santa's helpers got a lot of them everywhere, but Santa went. You served in the United States Navy at one time, did you?
Yes, sir.
What years were that?
From 1961 until 1966.
Wow. I went into service in November of '61. That's a different era, and we could talk all day about what was happening back then. And I was talking about texting. I didn't talk about Twitter, but can you imagine someone who I have an incarcerated veteran program in the Vietnam Veterans of America, right. And we have prisoners that have been in prison for 20-something years, and they're having to get back into society. They never had a email. They never had texting. Now you imagine walking up to a guy loaded with tattoos, about 6'4", and say, "Can I Twitter you?" You want to be my Twitter? So that's a real deal. They have to learn how to write checks and all that kind of thing. But so we've had a lot of things change since then. But what I want to talk about, the things that you see here on television in the front of us are items you carved. I've got to show mine off because this is something that people see all over the area. This is my cane that I use. I've decorated it up a lot since you did that, and you got yours laying there on the front of the table. We won't pull it out, but there's you do a lot of carving. Is that therapy?
Oh yes. The old hands, they get to hurt a lot, and especially in cold weather. And carving helps me keep the joints going and keep the arthritis back a little bit.
Well, you do the carving, and Miss Claus does the painting.
Yes, sir.
That's what she doing for therapy, or is she doing it because she like to do it?
Well, she makes them talk.
There you go.
They get their own face. Now you take this little guy here. If you look at him, and I call him, "Oh my," and he's just got that look to him. And
he does. He's sad, doesn't he?
oh yeah. And of course, you know, we do little Santas out of cypress knees, and this is a bigger Santa, of course.
Out of what?
Cypress knee.
Cypress knee. I can tell it's real light, so it's got to be cypress. The other thing is this right here caught my eye. This is a little buffalo, I guess.
A moose.
A moose. That's what I said. A moose.
This is her. This is her hubby.
That's a moose and a moosette.
Yeah.
All right, this is real light too. Is this also cypress?
No, this is out of basswood that I use, and I carved these a while back, and but I had to carve the horns for them, and boy, I tell you what, it's touchy when you get down here on these little things, and I super glue all them to make them stronger.
Does Ms. Claus do the painting on this?
Oh yes, she does all my painting. Safer that way.
Yeah, I got you. I got
you.
you. That is so nice. Now that big tall one you got there, that's obviously is Old Man Winter. Is that?
Yeah, that's old world Santa, and it's out of a cypress knee as well, and
very light compared to what he.
Oh yeah.
And, if you'll put that back over there where we had that.
We enjoy it, and we carve on Thursday nights down at Grace Baptist Church in the old fellowship hall. And
we as in a group of people.
Yeah, there's anywhere from 4 or 5 to there might be a dozen of us in there carving. Not everybody's retired like me, but we've been doing that for about 8 years now.
They carve various things, not just on the Santa theme at Christmas.
Right.
Things like that.
Right.
That's I'm not plugging somebody, but I got a friend named Fred Hunter who works for another station out of Birmingham. Got a show called Absolutely Alabama, and I can't think of anything more absolutely Alabama than Santa Claus here doing the carvings, and he came down and did a piece out in your shop out there or something.
Yes, sir, he did. He come down there, him and his photographer buddy Mike, and they come down there, and we just had the best time. And
well, if he wasn't a good friend, I wouldn't be plugging him. I'm not really plugging. He don't need plugging. He's got a great show, and it was shows. It was in-depth, shows the reality of it. They think that when I say that he's got a place doing carving down on 2 and 2, they probably think of a big, huge, but they don't know how small but it's sufficient. It's big enough for what you need to do there.
Yeah, we do carving there, and like I said on Fred's program, that right there, the eagle is our bird, our country's bird. The flag is our flag that you and I both served under. And we went and did what Uncle Sam wanted us to do, but that's freedom. And if it wasn't for that freedom, I could not sit here and talk to you.
Yeah, this one has been through some rough times. When you saw it today, you talked about its beak. It got broke off once, and thanks to the Sheriff Emerson, he found a piece of beak for me. But you put me another one on, and he's been re-beaked. And decorated up. And people, when I go in somewhere, I use this every day. And when I go in a business or somewhere and they see this, the eagle is, of course, you did one for Chief Partridge.
Yes, sir.
Of Oxford. And I found out later why. He had not told me, but the logo for the Oxford Police Department is that eagle there. So
is
that's
that
probably,
right?
yeah, it looks like, and you go in his office, it's one of the first things you'll see in his. And we're going to talk more about Santa here. When I come back, I got to go to a break. Come back, we're going to talk more with Santa Claus. Get the kiddies around, everybody. Be right back. Welcome back to Veterans Issues, and we're talking with Santa Claus. And I showed you some of the things he carves, but in his workshop with his elf. And this is one of the things, I don't know if you can see it on there, it's a real long cane, and it would make it real good for people like when you get tired. Santa, would you hold that over there to the side of you? That
yes,
look
sir.
like a shepherd with his staff, I guess, over. If you put it on the other side of your knee, it won't be a camera won't block your pretty face.
There you go.
But anyhow, we're going to talk about Santa now. Santa goes out. You go to various places in Calhoun County, or do you go out other places?
We go other places.
Visit?
We do several Tri-County area. We have a Santa up in Somerville that we're going to do a Santa forum up there, and they train handicapped people and disabled people how to do things, and they were having problems finding the Santa. So as soon as we found out about that, Mrs. Claus got in touch with them, and we told them, well, you pick a date and we'll arrange everything and we'll be there. So that's where we're going next Saturday, I believe.
Yeah.
So,
are you pretty well booked up through Christmas for you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We sure are.
That's what a heck of a question, but I figured you was. That now, when you was on here last time, I threw you a curveball. I'm gonna do it again. When you out and the kids come sit on a knee and talk to you, and you ask them what they want for Christmas stuff, just think, what is one of the most memorable requests that a kid asks you for, or sad, or whatever? What stuck with you as one of the most memorable?
Well, there was a little girl about 9 years old or so. We were doing Calhoun County foster children at Grace Baptist Church in the fellowship hall. And she stood back behind a young couple that Mrs. Claus and I have known for quite a few years. And she wouldn't come forward. And finally, all the other children was done, and she come walking up, never said a word, reached up and got a handful of my beard and yanked on it. And she looked at me right in eyeball to eyeball, and she said, well, it's real, okay. And she sat down on my lap and she told me, she said, Santa, I don't want any toys. I don't want any clothes or shoes or anything. All I want is my mama to come home. Sadly, Ken, her mama had been arrested again for drugs, and she was not going to see her mama for 3 years. Better than 3 years, because it was going to take a year to get her to trial. So she was in a foster home with good people and loving her and helping her, and made sure she had everything she needed, going to school and everything. And that stuck with me and Mrs. Claus all these years. Here it is, a young girl needing her mama, and she's been arrested again, and she's going to jail for 3 years.
Yeah. You know, it's easy for us to, when we hear that, stories like that, I hear plenty of them, we have a tendency to condemn the mother. But there's a drug out there, that methamphetamine, that I'm told by good sources that one time, you try it one time, you're hooked.
Yes.
Forever. And so somebody gets out there, a good mother, loving that daughter that sat on your knee, all intentions of doing the right thing for the rest of her life, just happens to be at a party or somewhere where people are, and at one time, that old mean methamphetamine gets in there, and it owns them from then on.
Oh, yes.
Man, I can tell you where one of the most beautiful young ladies in this area, I won't go into too much detail because somebody can figure out who it is, but she was going to a dentist that would pull her teeth, good teeth, and give her oxycodone or whatever for that, and then she'd have a dry socket, so she could stay a month high on that for having one of her good teeth, and she's in her 20s. But you got the other side of that coin is that dang dentist that was willing to pull her teeth just to get that money for that, and that's so there's all kinds out there. So the little girl sitting on your knee talking about her mama had good intentions, but just that one time. And when I say the one time, they may have been on drugs for years, but the first time they took methamphetamines, according to what I know about it, you don't have a second chance to say, well, I tried it once and I don't like it, because it's such a euphoria from the time you get it the first time. It takes over the mind and says, you got to have me again. And
yes, sir.
So that's a sad thing. But for it to sit there, I don't know how you could, well, I do. I know you enough to know you could handle that, but it's there's some of the sadder things out there. I was telling you some of the things I hear that we got people right now. I got on my phone here. I got some people asking for help. 3 kids and no food in the house and things like that. We got so many. You just have to walk away from a lot of stuff, I bet you.
You do. You know. We all meet people that come into our life. Sometimes it's for our entire life. They're lifetime friends. Others come in, it's like the wind. They blow in and they blow out. But regardless of that, we need to show them compassion. We need to show them love. And, you know, I had a lady ask me not too long ago. She said, "Why are you so strong on our veterans?" And I just could not believe that lady asking me that. And I looked at her and I said, "Well, ma'am," I said, "we have homeless veterans in this city that should not be homeless. They're sleeping under the bridges, they're sleeping in the parks." I said, "They're hungry. Have they got problems?" Yes. Many of them come back from the war that they served in, and we've rejected them.
Well, there's another part of that is we don't understand them. And so to be misunderstood, once people say, "Jimmy went to Afghanistan," it's not the same Jimmy that went. You're absolutely right. He's not the same. And so they can't get back into the family life. They can't get back into social life. From where we sit right now in the wooded area across the street down there, there's some veterans under there by choice. They'd rather be in the wooded area than they had to be. And that was one of my next questions was, this time of the year, being a veteran, there's probably not a sadder time, a rougher time on people, military active duty that's serving now, especially those overseas. There's not a worse time of the year than right now. But we're losing 22 veterans every day. We have 22 that take their own lives, and that's rough. But we got a minute and a half to talk about veterans. What is your take on that about this time of the year? You started talking about it.
Well, Christmas is a hard time for our veterans here in the States or wherever they might live. It brings back some for hard memories that when they were in the war and they went in as a young boy or a young woman and they come out as an adult. They have seen things that no young man or woman should have seen. Yeah. And many of them have chosen a life that nobody else would choose. But now that they've come back and society is what it is, they feel better being under a bridge or in the woods over here.
We got less than a minute. I got your phone number over here, this 282 number. If people want to have something that's got here today that's carved, they can call that number. But if they got a special cane that they want to carve for granddaddy or something like that, you'll do that?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay.
Sure will.
So they can get that number, get in touch with me. And man, I wish we had an hour and a half, but I want you to, I know you're fixing to get real busy here before the 25th, and all the kids out there need to obey their parents, all the stuff that you told them before. But
oh, yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Ken. Appreciate
Ken.
you, Santa.
Appreciate it. Merry Christmas.
So we're gonna go to a break, come back, and we're gonna talk about news as you can use. So stay right there. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. Ken Rollins here, and I appreciate Santa coming in and doing the show today. And that's going to lead into one of the things that I'm in the program here. If I can get the control room to bring it up, I want to talk about Toys for Tots. And that's what we got there, the little red train. That's the logo I want you to watch for. I want you to. This is a story from a message from those folks, the Marines that are doing this program. It said a shiny new toy sends a message to a needy child that someone cares, that is he or she has not been forgotten, that magic of Christmas hasn't passed him or her by. Please support the children, support the Marines, and support Toys for Tots. Every child deserves a little Christmas, and I agree with that. Every child does deserve a little Christmas. Some of them don't want a whole lot, but that one toy that you might furnish in Toys for Tots. So if you're going by one of the department stores or one of the locations that has those, look for that little red train on there. That's the one that's the official Marine Corps. And we'll talk about it a little bit more next week. But as this morning, as we were getting ready to tape the show, I was told that the toys are not being put in there like they have been in the last year. So get up, go out there, and let's don't let a kid go out there and expecting a toy and not get one. And that's where they get them from, is from the Toys R Us. That list comes from the Salvation Army, works with the Marine Corps to make sure that every kid has a toy. So they tell me this morning they're running a little slack on it this year. I understand that times are hard, the economy is bad and everything, but try to get some toys in where you see the little red train. And I want, before we get too far into the program, I want to make sure I get this out. This week's Veteran of the Week is Lonnie B. Butts, and he was in the 101st Airborne. He was killed in action in 1967 in South Vietnam. Lonnie B. Butts is our Veteran of the Week. And I want to make sure you got my new contact number that's been shown up on the screen today, 256-239-9234. That's the number you can reach me at most of the time. I got a email address at KLL1234@AOL.com, and you can reach me there. Bill Partridge, the police chief of Oxford, asked me to remind you to make sure that you lock up all your Christmas gifts out in the shopping centers and things. When you put them in the car, don't put them up where you can see them. Open the trunk, put them in the trunk if you can. If not, be sure you've got your car locked, because that's a easy shopping way for people. A lot of the bad people out there, they do their shopping from your cars. So make sure you do that. And let's see, I want to remind you that we thank you for purchasing that law enforcement tag. It's going to a good cause. Not all that is showing that you support law enforcement, and you don't have to be in law enforcement to do that. Now, this time of the year is no different than the other time, but the Cheaha Regional Animal Humane Shelter needs a lot of things. They need chips, they need blankets, old blankets, new blankets. They need treats, any old clothing and things they help keep the animals warm out there. And they need monetary donations, and that number is 256-241-3647. So that is a very special thing for this time of year. We've got a lot of animals out there looking for a forever home, and that'll help you do that. I got run out of time here, but the old unserviceable flags, you got one that we retire them every year. They're down at 15th Street there behind Rite Aid drugstore, the old 911 building. They got a container there, drop them off in there. We got to go, and I got this week's salute goes out to all those that are helping during the Christmas season. And this week goes to you. Salute.